What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a very easy and cheap way to make your jigs look very, very professional. Like exactly like you see it out of Bass Pro Shops. And that is with a fluid bed. This is super cheap. It costs like $4 or $5 to make one of these. It's super cheap and it's gonna make your paint look a lot cleaner when you go to paint jig heads. So let's dive in and find out how to make one of these fluid beds. All right, to make the actual fluid beds, we're going to need one piece of 2-inch PVC cut to 2¼ inches long, another piece of 2-inch PVC cut to 1.5 inches, a 2-inch PVC coupler. You can find those at Home Depot. They're down the same aisle as all the other fittings for the 2-inch PVCs. We're gonna need two 2-inch PVC test fittings or caps. I mean, they're in the exact same area. Just look around, type in test fittings, caps, and to Google and show them to the guy at Home Depot. He'll be able to help you out. So you're gonna need two of those. An air valve. You can get these off Amazon. I'll have them linked down below. They're about $1 a piece. Just order them by the 5 or so. And then you're going to need one piece of paper cut to about a 3.5 inch diameter circle. All right, outside of the materials required to make these fluid beds, we're going to need a couple pieces of hardware to make them. So first of all, we're going to need a drill with a 3/16 drill bit on it. We're going to need an basically an aerator for a fish tank with some hosing. It's about 12 inches long or so. And then we're going to need some epoxy. It's just quick set epoxy. I picked it up at Harbor Freight. And then we're going to need some PVC cement and primer. Basically, I just got those up at Home Depot, and they're like $4 or so. But so outside of all of the raw materials we're going to need to make these fluid beds, that's just some equipment that we're going to need along the way. All right, to make these actual fluid beds, what we're going to start out by doing is taking one of the 2-inch PVC caps, and we're going to take our 2-inch PVC cut to 1.5 inches long. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the purple primer, and basically we're just going to try not to make a mess. Kind of wipe it off a little bit and take our test fitting or cap and just kind of go around the outside. I'm making all sorts of a mess. I've got some paper towels here. So basically we're just priming this test fitting, making sure it's got it all the way around. Then we're going to go around the inside of this 1.5 inch piece of PVC. So just give it a second and let it dry. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to come back through with the actual cement. Yep, I'm making all kinds of a mess. Come back with the cement. Once it's dry, a little bit longer. But once it's dry, we're going to put that around the same deal. So we don't need a ton, so just kind of nice and easy. Grab the cap, just go around the outside, make sure it gets all good amount of cement everywhere. That's good. And then we're gonna go around the same location on the inside of this piece of PVC. Okay, once that's done, just take it, place it down on the top, and we're gonna let it sit for a second. All right, after that's dried a little bit, what we're going to do is we're gonna take a circle that we cut out of just regular printer paper. It's 3.5 inches in diameter. We're going to put it on top of that. We're going to grab our coupler, our 2-inch PVC coupler, and we're just going to put it on the top of that and push down until it's all the way to the inside of this ring up here. It's going to take quite a bit of effort to get there. I'm probably going to have to stand on top of it and really force it down to get it. But I can go at least a little ways here. All right, I'm going to pause the video, step on this, get it all the way down there. All right, I took this out to the kitchen. I had to get some harder floor, but I stepped on the top. I basically laid it down like that and stepped on the top of it and got that coupler ring flush up to the paper. The paper is nice and tight in there. Didn't puncture it. If it rips, you're going to have to start over again. It's got to be nice and tight down in there. So that's that step. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this 2.5-inch piece of 2-inch PVC and put it down on the top of it. This one's going to go, I want it looking like that one. That black mark was bothering me. Now we're just going to basically push this down all the way until that line down there. And this one's going to go in a lot easier. This one's not as critical with the air in there. So there we go. It's down on the line. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our drill with a 3/16 drill bit in it, and we're going to drill down below the piece of paper. We're going to drill down below the piece of paper, but above that cap. So that cap comes up to about there. So we're going to have to drill right up in here somewhere, pretty low. Like I said, you really want to miss the bottom of that paper. There we go. You really want to miss the bottom of that paper. So right about in there is where we're going to drill that hole. So maybe don't necessarily hold it in your hand, but I'm going to do it for the sake of this video. We're through. And we did not go through the top of the paper, so that's good. So basically what that did is it made a hole into the bottom cavity of that fluid bed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our valve here and we're basically just going to stick it in that hole. And it should be fairly tight, but yeah. So the reason for the epoxy, if we test this thing out and it seems like there's some air leaking somewhere, we might put some epoxy around that actual nozzle itself or around down here. The reason I try not to do that starting out is in case that paper rips down below. If this is epoxied on and this is epoxied down here, then really you're pretty well stuck having to make a whole new fluid bed just because it's all stuck together. Where if it's loose and it's working and it's fine and it doesn't seem like there's air getting out, then yeah, if you puncture the paper, you can just pull it apart. But I mean, in total, we're like $3.50 in total material costs. So it's more of just a hassle to go through and make these again. It's definitely not necessarily a cost deal, but yeah. So sometimes I will just epoxy the bottom of them to make them more airtight. But again, it just kind of, it kind of goes fluid bed by fluid bed. All right, we've got our fish tank aerator turned on and a piece of tubing attached to it. This one's rated for like 30 gallons or something along those lines. I believe it's 30 gallons. I'll link it in the notes down below with links to Amazon. So we're going to take our fluid bed and our hose, and all we're going to do is make sure that's closed, attach the hose to it, and then to actually activate the fluid bed, just loosen your nozzle a little bit until it starts letting air in there. I heard the paper pop, so it's getting some air in there. It's moving good. Yeah, that's what you do. Now all you need to do is, now make sure the valve's off when you add paint. But yeah, close the valve, add paint, turn it on, it'll fluff it up and make it nice and fluffy in there, make the paint almost look fluid, and that's your fluid bed. With paint, I tried to turn it on and have the valve wide open and see what it did, thinking, oh, cool, it's going to have some big old explosion. I'll show that on camera. It'll look awesome. And it didn't. It just looked like the fluid paint was just farting over in the corner, just having a little volcano just shooting up. It was more of a mess than cool, so that was disappointing. All right, and to disconnect it, make sure it's closed for next time's purposes. And then you just take the hose out. That's it. And when you've got fluid paint or you've got powder paint in there, that's why we've got the second cap. And it just makes sure everything's nice and neat. So if you bump it over and it spills, like no powder paint goes everywhere. But yeah, that's a fluid bed. It was like 50 cents for each cap, $1 for the nozzle, like 60 cents for the actual coupler, and then like, I don't know, 50 cents total for the 2-inch PVC pipe, and that's being generous there. So yeah, very, very, very cheap way to go about building a fluid bed. Thanks for watching, guys. In next videos, we're going to go over actually painting these jig heads. We're going to add some powder paint into the fluid beds we just made, and we're actually going to finish some jigs. We're going to do a black one. We're going to do a copper gold or copper black vein and a golden black vein. And we're going to kind of compare those and see how to get a really professional look out of our jig heads. So like, subscribe for that video to come. We're not going to stop there. We're going to actually pour some jigs in future videos as well. We're going to tie some up with like hand tied with wire, and then we're going to try to match some very popular jigs that are on the market. We're going to actually sit down with the jig heads that we made. I'll show you exactly what I ordered off of line from a skirt perspective, and then we're going to put them together so that you're actually able to see a start to finish process of how these jigs are made and how to replicate other jig skirts that you see off the market. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. And to answer your guys' questions, what was that foot in that video? It was a leg lamp. 'Tis the season, right?